The best part of my job is the customer smile. That is the most gratification I possibly could get. And the look on their face and the happiness as they walk away, that's it. That's what it does for me.
For years, American Restoration captured the hearts of millions by turning forgotten relics into stunning treasures, showcasing true craftsmanship on national television. But behind that hum of vintage machines and family banter lurked a growing conflict, one that would unravel the show spectacularly. What happens when reality TV demands drama over authenticity? Why did Rick Dale, the show's beloved star, walk away from millions of dollars and an empire he built? The answer is far more shocking than fans ever imagined. Rise to fame through Pawn Stars. At the center of American Restoration's success was Rick Dale, a master craftsman who spent decades restoring vintage Americana in a small Las Vegas shop. His path to television began unexpectedly when producers of Pawn Stars, then a growing hit on the History Channel, needed an expert to restore antiques. Rick's early appearances stood out. Unlike typical reality TV personalities, he offered real skill, patience, and deep respect for history. Viewers were captivated not just by the items, but by the detailed restoration process itself. Rick's passion began in childhood. At 9 years old, he restored a discarded bicycle with encouragement from his father, sparking a lifelong devotion to craftsmanship. That experience carried into every project he handled on television, from soda machines to motorcycles. On Pawn Stars, Rick quickly became the go-to expert for complex restorations. His calm demeanor and methodical work style resonated with audiences who wanted more than quick deals. They wanted to see how forgotten objects could be brought back to life. Recognizing this demand, the History Channel gave Rick his own series. American Restoration premiered in October 2010 and immediately stood out in a crowded reality TV market. Instead of focusing on manufactured drama, the show highlighted authentic craftsmanship and the emotional value of preserving history. It followed Rick, his wife Kelly, their son Tyler, and close friends who worked together in the shop. The family dynamic created a warm, genuine atmosphere that felt rare on television. The show also tapped into a growing cultural nostalgia. At a time when many reality shows emphasized competition or conflict, American Restoration celebrated patience, skill, and respect for the past. Each episode focused on meaningful projects, whether it was a 1940s Coca-Cola machine, an antique jukebox, or a barber chair. Viewers appreciated watching real work unfold step by step, learning about both the technical process and the historical significance of each item. Rick's modest nature, combined with his extensive work history, brought him professional trustworthiness. He performed his normal activities, which he had practiced throughout his entire existence. The authentic nature of his work created dedicated supporters who watched the show to experience proper craftsmanship. The show combined educational elements with comforting aspects and nostalgic elements to create a unique experience that maintained its appeal throughout time. The shop gained fame, through which famous customers started coming to the establishment. The presence of Billy Joel, Sammy Hagar, Lance Burton, and David Copperfield, who brought their personal belongings for restoration work, proved Rick's excellence in his profession. The show achieved higher public recognition through these appearances while maintaining its fundamental character. The show achieved success because it received pressure from outside sources. The network requested producers to create more urgent storylines, which included high-tension moments and emotional conflicts, which represented common reality TV elements after the ratings started to rise. The show began to lose its original crafting approach because of this change. The producers of the show, who initially wanted to deliver high-quality work through patient processes, started to prioritize production schedules and personal conflicts, which changed the overall atmosphere of the program. The original purpose of the historical observance started to transform into something else. The American Restoration show, which appeared to achieve permanent success, started developing internal problems that would later lead to its downfall. The show that Rick established himself through the network began to create a new show identity, which threatened to destroy the authentic elements that brought him success. And when those changes became too much to bear, everything Rick Dale had built would be put to the ultimate test. The glory days of American Restoration. At its peak, American Restoration wasn't just a show. It was a cultural phenomenon, attracting millions of viewers weekly and airing in more than 87 countries. The series averaged nearly 3 million viewers, a remarkable achievement in the competitive reality TV space. Fans appreciated the wide variety of projects that kept each episode fresh, ranging from vintage Harley-Davidsons and barber chairs to NASA helmets and jukeboxes. This diversity highlighted the richness of American history and Rick's unparalleled expertise. One of the show's greatest strengths was its genuine family atmosphere. Rick's wife, Kelly, managed the business side, while his son, Tyler, was positioned as the heir apparent, learning the craft and growing on screen. Brothers, stepsons, and longtime crew members like Cowboy, known affectionately as the shop's grumpiest expert, added memorable personalities that fans immediately connected with. This close-knit environment felt relatable and authentic, allowing viewers to invest emotionally in the team behind the restorations. Celebrity clients brought an additional level of excitement and legitimacy. Aside from the well-known musicians and magicians who entrusted Rick with their cherished items, NASCAR driver Greg Biffle was another high-profile client. Episodes featuring these stars garnered special attention, further boosting ratings and solidifying the show's status as a go-to destination for vintage restoration. The melding of celebrity culture with genuine craftsmanship was rare and compelling to audiences. Signature episodes like Pick, Pawn, and Polish drew massive viewership numbers, over 6.5 million for that single outing, setting records for the History Channel. These highlights showcased not only the restoration process, but also the personalities and relationships that made the show distinctive. The blend of humor, education, and tangible transformations resonated deeply with fans. People weren't just watching a show, they were witnessing history come alive through the hands of skilled artisans. The History Channel developed a permanent connection to its vintage Americana universe through crossover episodes that linked with other popular series from its network. The Counting Cars and American Pickers partnerships brought new viewers to the network while creating shared storytelling between its shows. The strategy established a dedicated audience who watched Rick on different shows, which resulted in continued viewer engagement. A typical day at Rick's shop involved the team handling between 6 and 12 active restoration projects, which represented the operational demands of an authentic restoration facility. The crew faced real-world challenges and suspenseful situations when they worked to complete their tasks under strict time limits while finding uncommon components and fixing intricate equipment. The show used direct restoration methods to restore items throughout its peak period, which demonstrated craftsmanship instead of showy displays. The DIY movement, together with the detailed restoration process, showed viewers a complete educational journey. Rick and his team dedicated themselves to preserving the histories attached to each object. The series showed the process of restoring vintage machinery through metal cleaning and engine assembly to demonstrate the importance of both time and expertise and proper treatment of equipment. The program offered viewers a different viewing experience, which stood apart from the mainstream reality shows that dominated the broadcasting schedule. American Restoration reached its peak viewership because the show matched authentic reality with entertaining content. Rick achieved success through his dual expertise as an expert restorer and a charming television character. The show reached its highest point through its combination of excellent chemistry, skillful production, and emotional narratives. The show lost its original harmony because of the constant demand for high ratings and the network's demand for specific content. The stage was set for a dramatic clash between genuine restoration and manufactured television demands, one that would ultimately redefine the fate of American restoration. Behind the scenes control and pressure. While American restoration flourished publicly, behind the scenes, the tides were shifting in ways Rick Dale never expected. As the show grew, producers increasingly demanded more drama, tighter deadlines, and heightened conflict to maintain viewer interest. What began as an honest portrayal of restoration transformed gradually into a scripted spectacle, prioritizing entertainment value over craftsmanship. This producer-driven direction started to erode the authenticity that fans had fallen in love with. Industry insiders revealed that Left Field Pictures, the company behind both Pawn Stars and American Restoration, applied the same manufactured reality formula to Rick's show. Conversations with customers were staged, timelines were distorted, and scenes were sometimes filmed multiple times from different angles. Fans grew suspicious as they noticed repetitive shots and inconsistencies, undermining the credibility of the restoration work and casting doubt on the show's honesty. Pressure to accelerate restoration projects led to unrealistic and often absurd deadlines. Restoration experts watching the show noticed how complex repairs that normally required weeks were compressed into days, compromising quality and attention to detail. This ticking clock was a devised narrative tool to inject urgency and tension, but ran counter to genuine restoration principles. It created an artificial scenario that frustrated both practitioners and dedicated viewers. The producers also began emphasizing interpersonal conflicts, family drama, and contrived scenarios unrelated to the restoration work. This shift alienated fans who tuned in for craftsmanship rather than personal disputes. Online forums and social media buzzed with complaints about staged fights, forced storylines, and diminishing focus on the art of restoration itself. Some viewers described it as a saccharine sitcom rather than a reality show. One particularly egregious example involved Rick's own brother, Ron, who appeared on Pawn Stars pretending not to know Rick while selling a Coca-Cola machine. The scene was a cross-promotional fabrication that blew apart the illusion of reality. Another involved substituting an irreparable golf ball slot machine with an identical replacement from another company, then presenting the latter as the original restored piece. These acts of deception shook the trust of loyal fans. Financially, Rick no longer worked with his usual clients. Instead, producers controlled which customers appeared on the show and negotiated restoration costs, paying for all work behind the scenes. Rick and his crew were compensated handsomely for filming, but had little say over business decisions. They had effectively become actors executing a scripted production rather than running an independent restoration shop. New characters were introduced for the sole purpose of stirring drama, further eroding the original essence of the show. One addition, a character named Leonard, reportedly caused some viewers to stop watching altogether. This departure from the show's roots signaled growing creative differences between Rick and the network that would prove irreparable. As seasons 5 and 6 aired, the backlash intensified. Loyal fans voiced frustration with the watered-down restoration content and overemphasis on personal stories. Critics argued that the show no longer celebrated skilled artisanship, but instead peddled manufactured conflict under the guise of reality television. For a craftsman like Rick, who had devoted his life to authentic restoration, this shift was both painful and unacceptable. This mounting pressure and creeping loss of control set the stage for a dramatic turning point, one that would force Rick Dale to make a choice that shocked the industry and his fans alike. Audience backlash and declining trust. As American Restoration progressed into its 5th and 6th seasons, the shift away from authentic restoration towards manufactured drama did not go unnoticed by its viewers. Fans began voicing their frustration online, expressing disappointment that the show had strayed from its roots. What once was a satisfying look at craftsmanship had become, in their eyes, a series filled with petty fights and contrived storylines that overshadowed the restoration work. Many longtime followers felt betrayed, as if the show was slowly losing the very heart that made it unique. Complaints soon flooded forums and social media, with viewers lamenting that instead of watching skilled artisans bring history back to life, they were getting soap opera-style interpersonal conflicts. One frustrated fan bluntly stated, "I thought this was about restoration, not watching grown men argue." This sentiment echoed throughout the community, highlighting a growing disconnect between what the audience loved and what the producers were delivering. The entertainment factor had eclipsed the educational and historical significance the show once held. Professional restorers and experts in the industry were also openly critical. They pointed out that many episodes featured restorations done hastily and inaccurately to fit the network's scripted timelines. Some restorers lamented that original paint was stripped away unnecessarily or that parts were replaced with incorrect reproductions. This not only diminished the authenticity of the restored items, but also risked erasing important pieces of history for the sake of dramatic television. Such professional critique added weight to viewer complaints and cast a shadow over the show's reputation. Episodes began to feel less like genuine projects and more like reality TV productions with set deadlines, characters, and plots that didn't reflect real restoration work. The comedy and camaraderie that initially drew people in gave way to scripted altercations and forced drama. This pivot alienated loyal viewers looking for authenticity, turning many away from a show they once followed religiously. Instead of feeling like insiders watching craftsmen at work, viewers felt like they were watching actors reading from a script. The show lost its credibility because of one major incident, which showed fake footage that included Rick's brother Ron appearing as a stranger who tried to sell a Coca-Cola machine. The Pawn Stars crew met him as a new person who brought a Coca-Cola machine to sell, while he actually worked with Rick at the time. The promotional partnership between the two companies destroyed all remaining credibility, which led people to doubt all aspects of the production. The fans felt deceived, which decreased their trust in both television shows and the network that produced them. The problems created ongoing viewer distrust, which resulted in decreased audience interaction with the show. Social media channels no longer buzzed with admiration for the craftsmanship, but instead became platforms for criticism and disappointment. The loss of faith in the show's authenticity was a critical blow, especially for a series built on respect for history and skilled restoration. The more producers created artificial conflict, the more the main audience stopped watching the show. The industry faced a major problem because these issues demonstrated that reality shows, which depended on visual effects instead of actual content, needed to maintain their existence. Other successful restoration-themed shows managed to keep the balance between entertainment and integrity. But American Restoration suffered from its mistakes, which turned into a warning about potential dangers. The very audience that had driven its early success was now demanding a return to what made the show special in the first place. The producer control process expanded, which created an environment that completely obscured the call for action. Rick Dale experienced growing frustration as the situation became more tense. The creative process became impossible for him because he needed to choose between his artistic work and the unreasonable work expectations and fake television conflict that he needed to create. The creative control created two types of problems because it affected his work life and his personal existence. The show transformed into a soap opera, which made him unable to accept the situation because he dedicated his life to restoring historical artifacts. As the audience's trust waned and complaints multiplied, the reality of the situation set in. American Restoration was at a crossroads. The choices made in response to this growing backlash would ultimately determine the fate of the show, and for Rick Dale, the decision would come with profound consequences. Rick Dale's breaking point. After 6 seasons of navigating the mounting tension between authenticity and entertainment, Rick Dale reached a decisive moment that would change everything. When the History Channel approached him to renew his contract for a 7th season, Rick made a choice few would have expected. He declined. Despite the financial opportunity to continue, potentially earning over $1 million a year, Rick prioritized his integrity and the soul of his craft over the money and fame that had come his way. Sources close to the production revealed that Rick was exhausted from being treated like an actor instead of a craftsman. The scripted drama, forced deadlines, and loss of control had transformed the show into something he no longer recognized, a saccharine sitcom far removed from the restoration business he loved. Rick wanted to reclaim ownership of his workshop and its work, and more importantly, he wanted to serve real customers rather than those chosen by producers for their television appeal. Adding to the impact of his decision was a heartfelt video Rick posted online, thanking fans for their support. He openly expressed his disappointment with the situation, his genuine love for restoration shining through despite the difficult circumstances. The emotional appeal struck a chord with fans who had witnessed his journey and could empathize with his struggle to preserve authenticity in a compromising environment. The History Channel's reaction, however, was swift and unforgiving. Rather than opening dialogue or attempting to address Rick's concerns, the network moved ahead without him. His departure triggered a complete overhaul of the series, and the entire cast, who had become beloved by fans, were subsequently dismissed. Rumors circulated about the nature of the split, including accusations that Rick had become difficult or that declining ratings forced the network's hand, but none of these claims were substantiated. The root cause was ultimately a clash between a craftsman demanding authenticity and a network prioritizing entertainment value and ratings. Rick's stand is remarkable considering the financial stakes involved. Walking away from a lucrative contract was a demonstration of principle rarely seen in reality television, where money often trumps creative control. His choice underscored a refusal to be complicit in the dilution of his craft for artificial drama. The 2-year gap between season 6 and 7 highlighted the network's struggle to figure out how to continue a show so closely tied to one personality who was no longer willing to participate. American Restoration had been built around Rick's skill, his family, and their relationships with each other and customers. Without him, the network faced a critical challenge: replace the heart and soul of the series or let it fade away. What followed was a radical reboot that attempted to keep the franchise alive but discarded the intimacy and authenticity that had defined it. For Rick, the decision signaled the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter, one where he would never again sacrifice his values for television success. His breaking point stands as a powerful reminder of the costs that come when art and commerce clash, and of the courage it takes to choose integrity over fame. The History Channel's radical reboot. When Rick Dale stepped away from American Restoration, the History Channel faced a major problem: how to continue a show so strongly tied to one man's shop and family. The network chose a drastic solution. In January 2016, it relaunched the series with a completely new format. Season 7 abandoned Rick's Las Vegas workshop and instead followed 5 different restoration businesses across the United States. While the goal was to keep the brand alive, the reboot stripped away the personality and emotional core that made the original show successful. The new season introduced Bodie Stroud, Dale Wachsler, Andy Bowman Jr., Steve Hale, and Bob Halliday, each running separate shops. On paper, the concept offered variety, but in practice, it confused and frustrated viewers. Fans who had spent 6 seasons building a connection with one tight-knit crew suddenly had to follow 5 unrelated teams with no shared history. The chemistry and familiarity that defined the original series disappeared overnight. Another major complaint was the shift in focus. The original American Restoration stood out for its wide range of projects. The reboot, however, centered heavily on vehicles, cars, trucks, and motorcycles. This disappointed fans, especially since the History Channel already aired Counting Cars, a show dedicated almost entirely to automotive restoration. Instead of feeling unique, the reboot blended into a crowded field of similar car-based programs. The storytelling also suffered. Episodes jumped constantly between the 5 shops, cutting away just as viewers started to get invested in one project. This fragmented structure made it difficult to form emotional connections or follow meaningful story arcs. The warm, family-style narrative that once defined the show was replaced by a scattered and impersonal presentation. People who both liked and disliked the show started to express their opinions. People expressed their amazement that everything about the show had lost its original charm because they believed the show managers had destroyed all its attractive features. The reboot failed to deliver the charm, comedy, and community feeling that Rick Dale and his team brought to the original show. The show became a normal reality program because it lost its main star, who represented its established brand identity. The educational content that defined the original series decreased at a rapid rate. The first 3 seasons presented detailed explanations about the techniques used in restoration work, together with their historical value. The reboot displayed items that showed their appearance before restoration and after restoration, without providing any information about the restoration process. Viewers experienced decreased satisfaction because this process eliminated the chance to witness craftsmanship development in its complete form. The new format failed to maintain viewer interest, even among those who tried it. Many viewers lost interest after watching only 1 or 2 episodes. The show experienced a quick decline in ratings, while online discussions showed that viewers had lost interest in the show. The reboot failed to regain its previous success despite showing exciting projects, which included rare antiques, celebrity-owned items, and NASCAR-related items. The show American Restoration received its cancellation notice 3 months after it started airing in April 2016. The show ended its franchise by attempting to create a new version because Rick Dale and his workshop represented the essential elements that made the show special, and the attempt to replicate success by removing the original show's soul had backfired spectacularly. The fallout and cancellation. The cancellation of American Restoration marked the final act of a showdown that pitted artistic integrity against commercial pressures. The clash between Rick Dale's desire to maintain authenticity and the network's pursuit of entertainment value ended in mutual destruction. Rick's refusal to compromise and the History Channel's insistence on creative control left no room for reconciliation. Both parties walked away with losses, but the fans suffered the greatest blow. For viewers, the show's demise meant losing a rare window into real, hands-on restoration work and the warmth of a family business dedicated to preserving history. The dynamic cast that had grown into familiar faces, Rick, Kelly, Tyler, Ron, Cowboy, and Brettley, were gone. Fans no longer had a reason to tune in week after week, as the original magic was lost. The network replaced irreplaceable chemistry with a formula that failed spectacularly. Rumors swirled in the aftermath. Some alleged that Rick had become difficult to work with, while others speculated that declining ratings forced the network's hand. There were even unsubstantiated whispers about client disputes, though no credible evidence ever confirmed these claims. The simple truth remained: a craftsman dedicated to authenticity confronted a machine demanding spectacle, and neither side bent. Following the show's end, Rick Dale shifted his focus entirely. He opened My Best Font Forward Creations, a laser cut and embroidery business operated mostly by his wife, Kelly. This marked a significant departure from full-scale restorations. Rick also authored a well-received book about classic soda machines and dabbled in metal art on a smaller scale, stepping away from the public eye and large restoration projects. Other cast members went their separate ways as well. Tyler honed his skills in woodworking and metalwork while settling into family life. Brettley Otterman found notable success with his sandblasting business, Clean Works Mobile Media Blasting, thriving independently in Las Vegas. Ron Dale chose a quieter path, crafting custom bicycles away from the spotlight, while Cowboy disappeared almost entirely from public view. Despite these new ventures, whispers about a potential comeback occasionally surfaced. Rick posted videos restoring antique signs and launched a website offering training and live Q&A sessions. Yet, the original restoration shop, where history was revived for 6 seasons, remains closed. a symbol of a chapter that ended too soon. The network's drastic reboot and ultimate cancellation serve as a stark lesson about the costs of sacrificing authenticity in favor of manufactured drama. American Restoration's story is bittersweet, a reminder of what genuine passion and craftsmanship can achieve, and how delicate that balance is in today's entertainment landscape. As fans reflect on the legacy of the show, many wonder if the original spirit can ever truly return, or if that era has passed into the past along with the relics it so lovingly restored. The end of American Restoration leaves behind not only nostalgia, but a cautionary tale about the consequences of losing sight of what truly matters. The ripple effects of this fallout continue to shape conversations about reality television and the value of authenticity in an industry often driven by ratings and spectacle. Life after the show. When American Restoration ended, Rick Dale entered a quieter, more reflective phase of life. Stepping away from television, he shifted focus to a smaller venture, My Best Font Forward Creations, a Las Vegas-based business run mainly by his wife, Kelly, that specializes in laser-cut decor and custom embroidery. It marked a major change from large-scale restorations, showing Rick's willingness to reinvent himself beyond fame. Rick also turned to writing, publishing Classic Soda Machines, a book praised for its deep dive into vintage Americana. While his original shop closed, he stayed connected to the restoration world through private consultations and small metal art projects. This allowed him to continue his craft on his own terms, balancing creativity with privacy. Online, Rick maintains a modest social media presence, occasionally sharing fabrication work on Instagram. The reduced pace reflects a craftsman stepping away from the spotlight to focus on meaningful, manageable projects. Kelly Dale pursued a different path, becoming a licensed realtor and making occasional public appearances. She successfully used her recognition from the show to build a new career aligned with her strengths. Rick's son, Tyler, devoted his skills to custom woodworking and metal fabrication work. He moved to Las Vegas after his 2022 marriage to establish his family life while working on personal projects instead of major restoration work. Brettley Otterman launched CleanWorks Mobile Media Blasting, which became his successful business operation after he gained television exposure. The path he followed demonstrates how reality television can create opportunities for people to build their businesses. The public opted to keep their personal information private. Ron, Rick's brother, dedicated his time to building custom bicycles while Cowboy vanished from view. The hints that he might make a return to public life have appeared at various times. Rick created an online platform for training and Q&A sessions, which operates while the original shop stands as a monument to past times. American Restoration will not return, but its history will live on. The show tells a story about craftsmanship and family, which shows how they adjusted to their newfound celebrity. The work continues to inspire people even after the public has lost interest in it. American Restoration's ending is a reminder that real authenticity is hard to sustain in modern reality TV. Rick Dale chose craftsmanship over compromise, and that decision ultimately reshaped his career. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep an eye out for the next video on your screen.